The owner of the Houston Texans is under fire for his commentary or input on the ongoing NFL anthem protests. Now, this is obviously a tense issue, and some of the reactions from people who don't support the protests have been slightly less than sensitive from time to time, up to and including the president. But look at what Bob McNair said. It was at a lengthy ESPN feature chronicling last week's meetings in New York, which of course are about this issue, some including direct input from players. He said he was opposed to the protests and said, "We can't have the inmates running the prison." And came up with this stat saying that 96% of America is opposed to the protests, which I would say, one, you invented that, and two, I don't care if 96% of the country is opposed to people doing the right thing. That doesn't mean anything at all. The majority of the country has been wrong about a lot of shit through the history of our country. So people had a problem with that because he's referring to them as inmates there. And so they put out a statement. This is that statement. "I regret that I used that expression. I never meant to offend anyone, and I was not referring to our players. I used a figure of speech that was never intended to be taken literally." Yeah, we get that. We're still mad. "I would never characterize our players or our league that way, and I apologize to anyone who was offended by it."
What do you mean? He meant like the real inmates. Like, what else do the NFL owners have? They clearly run prisons underneath stadiums. Yes. I think we need screw Pizzagate. Guys, we got a whole new stadium gate going on.
Yeah, to me, the most telling part of that 96% is how everybody is in their own bubble, and especially billionaire owners of teams are so egocentric oftentimes that stat, of course, doesn't apply to the country. There's an enormous percentage of the country that supports Kaepernick, that realizes there is police brutality, unfortunately, specifically more so aimed at African Americans, but really the poor and the middle class get it, of course, way more than the rich do. It's more of a class issue, but also some degree of race issue, and there's a wide variety of opinions. So what does he mean 96%? In his own bubble, which is the NFL owners, it is almost literally 96% of them who are opposed to the protests. Only the owner of the Jaguars is in favor of the protests. So in his world, 96% are opposed to the protests. And why do these prisoners keep protesting? You know, and one of the things that always drove me crazy, and you're gonna think it's a small thing, and I hear you, brother, but is those shirts that everybody went around in, not now, like for 10 years, 20 years, I've seen this, and it's always bothered me a little bit. Property of the Indianapolis Colts, property of the Denver Broncos, right? That always like just bothered me a little bit, and that's a very common shirt. I don't think they meant anything bad by it. I'm not trying to nitpick, but now when you see the mentality of the owners, and they think, we run this thing, you don't run this thing, and we view you as the prisoners, right? And look, we know that he didn't mean it literally. I hope, right? And they're not prisoners. They make a lot of money. The players do, right? But at the same time, the owners are now telling them, we will dock your pay, we will suspend you, we will take away your property if you don't have the same opinions as we do. Yeah. If you want to express your opinions as an American citizen, we will punish you. And that kind of, it's not a prison, but it's, but it is punitive.
Even if it's not even on the field during the game. Like, it's not like we produce this product, this sports entertainment, and we're not gonna do it. It's not even that. And it still frustrates not just the owners, but a lot of Americans. I don't understand. I think the simplest thing, if they want to stop the protests, I don't think they should. I think the protests should continue. Is how about there's no reason whatsoever to play the national anthem in the first place at a goddamn sports event? Just take the thing out. It's really weird and creepy and North Korean-y. I don't understand why we're doing it.
100%. I'm a big. I used to play soccer. I'm a big soccer fan. In Europe and other parts of the world, when there is a local game, there is no national anthem played. When Manchester plays London in soccer in England, they're not playing the British national anthem.
No, they're just chants with expletives.
Right. And when St. Louis plays Cincinnati, why are you playing the national anthem? If anything, play the St. Louis anthem.
There's such a jingoism in sports.
Oh yeah,
that makes sense to some extent. Yeah,
I just feel like there's a jingoism in sports all around that doesn't need to be there, right? Like there can be it's the same thing we're asked as Americans to put our heads down and not ask questions, and to think that dissent is somehow unpatriotic, that the First Amendment is somehow exercising it is somehow unpatriotic. Right. And the same thing with sports. It's like, well, just shut up and you play ball. You play ball, you shut up, even though you're the reason I make so much money. Right. You're the reason I'm here. And so to me, this is more of a call to players to be like, oh really? Maybe we should go on a prison strike if you think this is a prison.
If you look at it, what this owner said, if you take it, figuratively, he really is saying what is the norm for all jobs throughout the country. Sure. I mean, jobs basically aren't a democracy. When you work for someone, they really are a dictator, and you really can't. If you see something going wrong within your country and you speak up, chances are you're going to be let go. And this goes whether it's something that has to do with sexual assault or whatever, and that's why people don't speak up. So this is it's a huge moment, and it's bigger than football, And but it's got such a racial component. I mean, I know, Jake, that but it's super racialized. Most NFL owners are white. I think there's maybe one. I know there's like one black owner.
The Jaguar owner is Pakistani.
Okay, there you go. So, I mean, it's super racialized. Inmates to prison guards or to people who run prisons, and it even harkens back to like slavery, like a little bit of this like we own you, and so anyway, there's super overtones of that. So even the fact that he would go to that metaphor just shows how he views his players.
Yeah, and so the actual quote is, he got it wrong, by the way. The saying is not we can't have inmates running the prison; it's inmates running the asylum. But his main,
that makes him sound crazy though. Theoretically.
But his main point is, look, we're in charge here, and to some degree, of course, the people who own the company are, of course, in charge, right? But it's not a productive way of handling employee relationships, where you say, hey, you guys are the prisoners or the insane people that we've put into this asylum that I run, right? And I'm going to run it with a heavy hand. And whether they have the right to or not, it doesn't seem like a productive way of doing it. And especially football with the whole, the physical aspect of it, and the it just harkens back to things that you don't want to harken back to. So this is not remotely helpful. And so some will say, well, he said in the privacy of the other owners. I'm not sure that makes it better. There's some chance that makes it worse. Right? Like they thought, oh, it's all us now. We could be honest with each other. I mean, what are we letting these guys have any voice at all?
Right.
We could pretend later publicly that we give a damn what they say, when we in reality don't.
Also, the idea that the word run, we can't let them run. No one's running anything. It is a demonstration of solidarity and sort of minor protest around police brutality. Like, no one's running anything.
It shows you though how scared they are.
Yeah.
And it shows you how important protest is. The fact that he's saying this, he's admitting the fear they have.
Yeah.
Those are such great points, because I never thought about it that way, Francesca. I mean, what are they running? I mean, if Kaepernick came and said, hey guys, look, I really think the ticket should be $37.50, and your profit margin should be 12.25%, you'd be like, hey, whoa, dude, that's not your job, right? Okay. They're not saying we want to run anything. They're just saying, oh, by the way, I don't like it when unarmed black guys get shot. Like, oh, now you're trying to run things and you don't want unarmed blacks to get shot.
And by the way, like,
I didn't know that was part of the NFL's job. To help with police brutality. I mean, because if you say they're running things, I guess it's kind of a mindset of like, no, we're in charge not just of the NFL, but the country. And so, no, know your role. Your role is to bow your head, but not your knee, and never complain about anything, even if it doesn't have anything to do with the actual game.
Also, I think just having to listen to a song before you play a game is kind of corny.
And you know what? And just to end on that, it's a great point. Normally, the anthem is played in international events. So when you're doing World Cup or Olympics, we'll play, if we win the gold, for example, in the Olympics, they'll play the national anthem, which is great, which is terrific, right? So, and by the way, one of the greatest sports protests of all time happened while the anthem was being played in the Olympics in 1968. And now we celebrate those guys, but not when it's done in live time. Oh, how dare they, right? But in 2009 they used to have the national anthem played without the players on the field. They used to be in the locker room. In 2009, they changed it when the military started paying the NFL for displays of patriotism. Then they made the players come out for the national anthem. That was not in ancient history. That was in 2009 that they changed the rule. So this is actually paid patriotism, which is gross and the opposite of earned true patriotism. If you like the Young Turks, you'll love Young Turks membership. TYTnetwork.com/join.